What does it really mean when a woman shakes during intimacy? Too often, people misunderstand this reaction, labeling it as something strange, awkward, or even wrong. But the truth is, it's one of the most powerful and authentic expressions of a woman's body and soul, communicating without words. It's not a weakness. It's not a lack of control. It's a sign of something deeper, something raw, vulnerable, and beautifully human. When a woman shakes in such a moment, it is her body revealing layers of emotion and connection that cannot be faked. This trembling is often tied to trust. Trust in the space, in the bond, and in the person she has allowed into that most sacred part of her life. It reflects the release of emotions she has been carrying, emotions she may not have even been consciously aware of. That shake is not random. It's her body saying, "I feel safe enough to let go." When a woman shakes during intimacy, many people rush to attach a meaning that is often shallow, dismissive, or even filled with misunderstanding. But if we look deeper, we begin to see that one of the most profound reasons behind this physical response is emotional release and trust. This is not something that can be manufactured or faked. It is something that emerges only when the emotional connection is genuine, when the comfort is real, and when she feels she is in the presence of safety. To understand this, we need to recognize that women carry layers of emotions, stress, and unspoken experiences within them. Some of these emotions are conscious, like worry, fear, or joy, but many remain buried deep inside the subconscious. Intimacy, when it is authentic, can unlock those hidden emotions. The shaking is the body's way of saying, finally, I can let go. Finally, I can release. Trust plays the most central role here. For a woman to allow herself to experience that level of vulnerability, she must feel an extraordinary sense of security in that moment. Trust is not built overnight, nor is it something that can be demanded. It is earned over time through consistency, respect, care, and emotional presence. When she feels safe enough to surrender control, her body naturally begins to release the tension she has been holding on to. This release doesn't always come through words or even tears. It often comes through involuntary physical responses like trembling. And this trembling is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of courage. It is a reflection of her willingness to put down her armor, to stop fighting, and to allow herself to be fully present. If you think about it, most women spend their daily lives in a constant state of holding things together. They juggle responsibilities, protect their emotions, and guard themselves against a world that doesn't always feel safe. They may rarely find spaces where they can completely exhale, where they don't have to be in control, where they can just be. Intimacy, in the right context, provides that rare space. It is like stepping into a sanctuary where she doesn't have to perform or pretend. And when she realizes that she is truly safe, her body responds by releasing pent-up emotions. That shaking you see is her body's raw expression of relief, freedom, and trust. It is her system saying, I am safe enough to unravel. It's also important to understand that emotional release during intimacy doesn't always come from a place of pain or trauma. Sometimes the shaking comes from overwhelming joy, deep gratitude, or the intensity of positive emotions she may not know how else to express. Human emotions are vast, and sometimes the body cannot contain the depth of what the heart is experiencing. In those moments, trembling becomes the language of the soul. It's the physical proof that the experience has touched her on a level far beyond the surface. Unfortunately, many people misinterpret this reaction. They may assume something is wrong or feel the need to stop it or fix it. But the truth is, nothing is wrong. In fact, everything is right. A woman shaking during intimacy is a testament to the depth of the connection. It shows that the moment is not just physical. It is emotional, spiritual, and healing. When she feels safe, her body stops resisting and starts releasing. And that is one of the most beautiful things that can happen in intimacy. Think about the power of trust here. Trust is not about believing someone's words. It is about feeling safe in their presence. A woman's body knows when it can relax. It knows when it is respected. It knows when the environment allows her to be vulnerable. And that knowledge is not intellectual, it is instinctual. When her body trembles, it is proof that she has allowed herself to be seen, to be vulnerable, and to let go of control. It's proof that she has trusted enough to expose her deepest self without fear of judgment. Emotional release through shaking can also be profoundly healing. Ma? Many women carry silent burdens, past heartbreaks, unspoken fears, or even subtle insecurities. These emotions often get stored in the body, weighing her down over time. When intimacy is genuine, it can act like a key that unlocks those stored feelings. Shaking becomes the process of letting go, of cleansing the emotional body. It is almost like the storm before the calm, a release that clears the way for peace. In this way, shaking is not just a physical reaction. It is an emotional purification. It is crucial to view this reaction not as a problem, but as a gift. A woman who allows herself to shake in intimacy is not broken. She is brave. She is brave enough to trust, to feel, and to release. She is brave enough to surrender control in a world that constantly asks her to hold it together. That trembling is her body's way of reclaiming her softness, her vulnerability, and her right to feel deeply. And if we really understand it, we realize that this shaking is not a weakness, but a strength. It shows the depth of her trust and the authenticity of her emotional experience. In the end, emotional release and trust are inseparable. One cannot exist without the other. A woman will only allow herself to shake when she feels safe, respected, and loved. And when she does, it becomes one of the most powerful testaments to intimacy that is real, meaningful, and transformative. It is not just her body trembling. It is her heart speaking, her soul opening, and her spirit saying, I trust this moment. I trust this connection. I trust that I can let go. When a woman shakes during intimacy, it is often misunderstood as something strange or even alarming. But from a biological perspective, shaking is one of the body's most natural responses to overwhelming sensations. Our nervous system is designed to process emotions, stress, and pleasure, and sometimes when the intensity goes beyond what the body can contain, trembling becomes the release mechanism. It is not a malfunction. It is not a malfunction, nor is it a sign of weakness. It is simply the nervous system doing its job. Just like laughter can bubble out uncontrollably when we feel joy, or tears can flow unexpectedly when we are deeply moved, shaking is the body's way of expressing sensations too powerful to be held inside silently. To understand this, we need to look at how the nervous system works. The human body operates under two primary modes: the sympathetic nervous system, which prepares us for action, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps us relax and feel safe. During intimacy, both systems are often activated at the same time. The sympathetic system heightens physical arousal, increasing heart rate, blood flow, and sensitivity. At the same time, the parasympathetic system promotes relaxation, comfort, and emotional connection. This dual activation can create a state of overwhelming intensity, one where the body feels flooded with sensation. And when the nervous system can't process it all smoothly, the overflow shows up physically as shaking. Biological reactions like this are common in many areas of life. Think of someone giving a speech in front of a crowd. Their hands may shake, not because they are weak, but because their nervous system is handling an overload of adrenaline and emotion. Or consider someone who has just experienced a major relief after a period of fear. Their body often trembles as it releases all that pent-up tension. Intimacy works in a similar way. The body interprets intense closeness, vulnerability, and pleasure as a flood of sensations, and trembling becomes the natural outlet. It is as if the body is saying, there's too much energy here to contain, so I must release it. Shaking during intimacy can also be linked to the release of stress stored in the body. Science has shown us that trauma, anxiety, and prolonged stress are not only held in the mind, but also stored physically in muscles, tissues, and the nervous system. When the body finally feels safe during intimacy, it sometimes begins to release that stored tension in the form of involuntary shaking. It is the same principle behind why animals tremble after escaping danger. The body discharges the energy of the stressful event so it doesn't remain trapped. In humans, intimacy can provide a safe enough space for that discharge to happen, and trembling becomes the visible sign of that healing release. Another biological explanation lies in the way pleasure itself affects the body. The human nervous system is highly sensitive, and moments of heightened pleasure trigger a cascade of chemical reactions in the brain and body. Endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, all these hormones flood the system during intimacy. This rush can feel so powerful that the body's muscles spasm or tremble involuntarily. It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that the experience has reached a level where the body can't remain completely still. In fact, shaking can sometimes be seen as the body's peak response, evidence that the sensations are so strong they move beyond conscious control. It's also worth noting that women's bodies are particularly sensitive to hormonal and nervous system changes. The female nervous system is often more finely tuned to emotional and physical shifts, which makes the release through shaking even more common. What may seem like a simple physical reaction is, in truth, the result of a complex interaction between hormones, the nervous system, and emotional states. The body is not failing her. It is working perfectly, expressing what cannot be put into words. Because shaking is not often discussed openly, many women may feel embarrassed when it happens, worrying that it makes them look out of control. But from a biological standpoint, the opposite is true. Shaking is not a loss of control. It is the body's brilliant way of maintaining balance. By trembling, the nervous system is discharging excess energy, ensuring that the body does not remain stuck in an overstimulated state. In this way, shaking is protective, not problematic. What makes this phenomenon even more fascinating is how universal it is. While it may manifest differently, all humans have ways of releasing excess nervous system energy. Some cry, some laugh uncontrollably, some get goosebumps and some shake. The body finds the outlet that works in the moment. So when a woman shakes during intimacy, it should not be seen as unusual. It should be recognized as one of the many beautiful ways the body responds to overwhelming emotion, trust, and sensation. Teaches us that the body never lies. Every reaction is meaningful, even if we don't always understand it right away. Shaking is the body's raw truth expressed in movement. It says, "This is too much to hold in silence, so I must let it out." It is the nervous system's way of keeping her grounded, balanced, and free. Instead of fearing it or silencing it, the best approach is to honor it. Because that trembling is not just physical, it is the visible language of her biology, the nervous system's whisper that she is experiencing something profound. When a woman shakes during intimacy, one of the most powerful meanings behind this response is that it represents vulnerability and safety. These two elements are deeply intertwined. Vulnerability does not happen in a vacuum. It only arises when the person feels secure enough to let their guard down. For many women, the world outside of intimacy demands strength, composure, and constant self-control. They live in environments where showing fragility might be judged, misunderstood, or even exploited. So when trembling appears in an intimate moment, it is evidence that she has found a rare space where she no longer has to pretend, a space where she feels protected enough to simply be. Shaking becomes an embodiment of vulnerability. In those moments, she's not hiding behind a mask, not performing, not trying to maintain control. She's allowing her body to respond honestly. Though, this honesty is not something that can be forced. It is only possible when there is trust, safety, and acceptance. Vulnerability is often thought of as weakness, but in reality, it is one of the bravest acts a person can offer. For a woman to tremble during intimacy is her way of saying, "I trust this space. I feel safe enough to let go of the armor I carry every day." That kind of vulnerability is not easy to reach, and when it shows itself, it reveals a depth of connection that goes far beyond the physical. Safety plays the foundational role here. Without safety, intimacy remains surface level. When a woman feels judged, criticized, or objectified, her body will instinctively remain guarded. She may go through the motions, but the deeper layers of her being will remain closed off. Shaking does not occur in those circumstances. Instead, it happens when she knows she is accepted exactly as she is, without conditions, without pressure, without fear. Safety is the soil from which vulnerability grows, and trembling is the flower that blooms from that soil. It's important to realize how rare and sacred this state of safety truly is. Many women have lived through experiences where their vulnerability was mishandled. This makes them cautious, sometimes even protective of their emotions and bodies. But when they encounter intimacy that feels safe, their defenses slowly dissolve. The trembling becomes the body's signal that the defenses are lowering, that the walls are coming down, and that she is opening herself in ways that are deeply raw. It is her nervous system's way of saying, I can finally relax. I don't have to fight. I don't have to protect myself in this moment. Shaking, then, is a physical manifestation of surrender. Surrender not in the sense of losing power, but in the sense of releasing the constant need to control and protect. For many women, this surrender is liberating. It allows them to step into softness, into openness, into the freedom of not having to be strong all the time. Intimacy, when safe, gives them permission to embody this vulnerability without fear. The trembling is her body exhaling years of tension, years of needing to hold everything together. It is a sacred moment where the weight she carries daily finally begins to lift. We must also acknowledge that vulnerability in intimacy is not only about the body, it is about the soul. When a woman shakes, it is often because she is allowing herself to be seen fully, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. She is exposing her raw self, her unguarded heart, and her unspoken truths. That kind of exposure can be overwhelming because it carries both the risk of rejection and the possibility of profound connection. The trembling, then, is not only a response to physical sensation, but the emotional magnitude of being fully seen and accepted. It is the body's way of processing the gravity of such openness. What makes this even more significant is that vulnerability requires immense strength. It takes courage to show fragility in a world that often punishes it. When a woman trembles during intimacy, she is demonstrating that courage. She is saying, I will risk showing you my most unguarded self because I believe I am safe here. That act alone is one of the deepest expressions of trust that can exist between two people, and the trembling becomes the physical proof of that trust. Safety, then, is not just about physical protection. It is about emotional sanctuary. It is about creating a space where judgment, criticism, and pressure do not exist. Shaking is a reminder that intimacy is not about control or perfection. It is about presence, acceptance, and the courage to be real. When she feels safe, she does not have to think about how she looks, what she says, or whether she is enough. She can simply feel. And in feeling, her body responds with a truth that can only be expressed through trembling. The beauty of this lies in its authenticity. Trembling is not rehearsed, not performed, not planned. It is the most unfiltered reaction the body can give. That authenticity is what makes it so powerful. It shows that the intimacy is not shallow, not mechanical, but deeply real. The vulnerability behind it is precious because it represents the heart's willingness to step into the unknown, to risk exposure, and to embrace connection fully. When a woman shakes during intimacy, it is a reminder of what true closeness means. It means that she feels safe enough to be vulnerable, to release control, and to let her body respond in its most natural way. It means that she trusts the moment, trusts the space, and trusts herself enough to open fully. Vulnerability and safety are the foundation of authentic intimacy, and trembling is the beautiful physical evidence of their presence. It is not just her body shaking, it is her heart opening, her soul speaking, and her spirit finding rest in the security of being truly seen and truly safe. When a woman shakes during intimacy, the meaning often goes far beyond the physical body. While biology and psychology explain part of the reaction, there is another layer that cannot be ignored: the spiritual and energetic side of intimacy. At its core, intimacy is not only about two bodies meeting, it is about two energies merging. When this connection happens at a deeper level, it can create shifts that are not only physical, but also emotional, spiritual, and even transformative. Shaking in this sense can be seen as an energetic release, a spiritual awakening, or a sign that something much greater is taking place within her. Human beings are not just physical creatures. We are made of emotions, thoughts, and energies that are constantly moving, shifting, and interacting with the world around us. During intimacy, these energies become heightened, and the exchange between two people intensifies. When a woman trembles in such a moment, it is often because her energy is not only colliding with another's, but also being released, transformed, or elevated. This is why the shaking can feel almost unexplainable, as though it comes from a place deeper than muscle tension or nervous system response. It is the body's way of manifesting what the spirit is experiencing. Many spiritual traditions describe intimacy as sacred. They see it as more than pleasure. It is union, healing, and a form of connection that transcends the physical world. In these traditions, when energy flows freely between two people, it can trigger physical reactions like trembling, crying, or even laughter, because the spirit is shifting in ways that the body struggles to contain. For a woman, shaking can be the visible evidence that she is experiencing intimacy on the spiritual plane. It is not about performance. It is about her soul being touched in a way that goes beyond words. This kind of shaking often feels like a release. Just as the body holds on to stress and emotions, the spirit too can hold on to burdens, fears and wounds. Burdens, fears and wounds. Intimacy, when it is real, can act as a form of cleansing. It becomes a moment where old energy is released to make room for new. Trembling is her body's way of letting that energy flow out, clearing space for healing and renewal. In this sense, intimacy becomes transformative. It is not only about closeness, but also about growth, release, and inner freedom. There is also a spiritual dimension to surrender. When a woman feels safe, she is able to let go, not only of her physical guard, but of her energetic guard as well. That surrender is what allows her to shake, because her spirit is finally free to move, expand, and shift. It is almost as if her soul is saying, I am free here. I do not have to hold on anymore. The trembling is the language of that freedom, the body's translation of a spiritual letting go. Some describe this reaction as an energetic awakening. In those moments, intimacy awakens parts of the self that may have been dormant, hidden, or repressed. It can activate deep emotions, spiritual awareness, or even a sense of connection to something greater than the two people present. This awakening can be overwhelming, which is why the body responds physically. The shaking is not weakness. It is the outward expression of something deeply powerful happening within. We should also consider the role of energy exchange. Every human carries a unique energy shaped by their emotions, intentions, and presence. When two people connect intimately, their energies interact in ways that are often invisible but profoundly felt. For a woman, trembling may occur when that energetic exchange becomes so intense that her system has to adjust. The shaking is her way of integrating the energy, processing it, and aligning with it. In some cases, this integration can feel like healing. In others, it may feel like awakening. Either way, it is evidence that the connection has gone beyond the surface. From a spiritual perspective, shaking can also symbolize alignment. When a woman trembles, it may be her body aligning with her emotions, her spirit aligning with her body, or her energy aligning with another's. This alignment can be so powerful that it overwhelms the physical vessel, spilling out as trembling. It is a sign that she is not just present in the moment physically, but fully immersed emotionally and spiritually as well. It is worth noting that these experiences are deeply personal and cannot always be explained in logical terms. For some, the trembling may feel like an emotional release. For others, it may feel like a spiritual breakthrough. But the common thread is that it always points to depth. It is never shallow. It is never meaningless. It is always a reflection of something profound stirring within her. The spiritual and energetic meaning of shaking reminds us that intimacy is not simply an act. When a woman shakes, it is not something to fear or suppress. It is something to honor. Because in that trembling, there may be healing taking place. In that trembling, there may be years of silence being released. In that trembling, there may be a spiritual shift that words cannot capture. When a woman shakes during intimacy, it is a reminder that the human experience is not limited to the physical body. We are layered beings, emotional, spiritual, and energetic. Intimacy has the power to touch all those layers at once. The shaking is simply the body's way of revealing that truth. It shows that intimacy at its highest level is not just physical, it is soulful. It is not just about being close. It is about merging, releasing, awakening, and transforming. And when a woman trembles, it is her spirit's way of showing that she has touched that sacred space where love, vulnerability, energy, and soul all meet.